If you've been subscribed to my channel since 2016, you might remember I reviewed this collection featuring both Ico and Shadow of the Colossus before the release of The Last Guardian. I liked both these games, though parts of them are a little outdated. At least they've aged better than The Last Guardian. Seeing as Shadow of the Colossus received the remake treatment, I thought I'd revisit this classic and see if Bluepoint Games can make a good game a great one. Notice how I didn't use the word remaster, but rather remake. It was confirmed that the mechanics were being rebuilt from the ground up, making this more than just a next-gen makeover. That's what got me curious to replay the game on the PS4, as both Ico and Shadow of the Colossus on the PS3 feel a bit clunky nowadays. Well, I've beaten the game again, so are the updates made strong enough to make me view this as the masterpiece so many others see it as? Plenty of changes were made to this title, but the story wasn't one of them. This is still a very simple tale of a man travelling to the Forbidden Lands to bring his cursed love back from the dead. Mysterious voices tell him that he needs to kill 16 beasts called Colossi to revive her, and that's what Wanda, the main character, goes about doing for the rest of the game. Back when I first played it, I thought it was a very good story that fit with being a video game, but it lacked emotional investment for me. And yeah, I still feel the same way, but revisiting this journey having read up a lot on people's opinions of the game was interesting. Many other gamers have said how they felt bad about killing each Colossi and how subtle the storytelling is for a game that lacks it for a big chunk of the duration. I never really felt that way, and I think for me to do so, Wanda needed more dialogue. He speaks a bit during the opening, and then never again. But an idea I had is where whilst you're searching for each Colossi, he talks aloud to his horse, Aggro. He could start voicing regret about murdering these creatures, maybe you get a sense of what the girl was like, things like that. But that's not Team Ico's style of storytelling, and hoping for a change like that is a bit of wishful thinking, but I think I would have felt a bit more investment in the plot. I might sound like I'm being too harsh, but this is still a solid story that does its job quite well. It just doesn't do too much for me on an emotional level. And on a final quick note, I mentioned in my original review how I didn't find the ending that satisfying. Replaying it, I actually quite liked it this go around, so that's nice. In conclusion, I wasn't expecting the story to be any different, which I liked fine back on playthrough 1, and I like it fine now. What has changed in this remake? Most notably and obvious are the graphics. And holy crap does this game look beautiful! The character models look a bit off at first, but the environments are simply wonderful to look at, with fantastic attention to detail. The Colossi themselves also look great. It looks like you can really touch their soft looking fur. Combine the visuals with an amazing soundtrack that gives so much weight to the battles and even the story to a lesser extent, it's hard to complain about the game's presentation. But on the PS3, there was plenty to complain about when it came to the gameplay, so has it been updated and improved? To find each Colossi, you have to travel across an admittedly empty overworld on horseback to where the beam of light from your sword is pointing. At times it can be easy to get lost, a little more so than last time surprisingly, but it's not too hard to get back on track. Aggro can also become a bit finicky to control, slowing down to a crawl when in areas like the forest, and sometimes he'll do so randomly. It's a little annoying, but for the most part, getting to your destination is fine. Once you arrive, you may have to do a spot of platforming to get to the Colossi. I really enjoy it, but with the graphical update, I found it hard to tell with some surfaces what I could grab onto, leading to simple sections that gave me more trouble than they ought to. Thankfully, it's not too common, but it can be annoying. Besides, the main surfaces you'll be climbing are that of the Colossi themselves. Shadow of the Colossus might be over a decade old at this point, but the novelty of scaling these giant beasts never gets old, and it's very thrilling. Now, one of the challenges of re-reviewing a game like this is that one of my issues was that it was sometimes hard to tell how to get onto each Colossi, as actually killing them is only part of the solution. You need to actually get on them first. This can be accomplished by provoking the Colossi to do something, or just having good timing. I can definitely say that there are just a few fights where the solution is a little obscure to figure out on your own, and there were even times where I forgot what I was supposed to do and needed to enlist the help of IGN. But with a little brain power, you should be able to figure out what needs to be done for most of the fights. However, my biggest issue with the game initially was being swung about by the Colossi whilst you're trying to stab them, giving you little chance to attack and leading to some frustrating and clunky feeling moments. As for the remake, it's much better. Climbing up the Colossi feels much smoother, and while you'll still get swung about, it's nowhere near as aggravating as before. But it can get so, especially towards the end of the game, and there's times when it's almost impossible to climb up the Colossi, such as in this scenario. Get ready to jump, there we go! Okay, time to climb, whoa! Hold on, hold on, hold on! Climb up, climb up! Climb up, oh move you stupid! But it's not nearly as much of an issue as it was before, and it made the game much more enjoyable to play, and I had a much better time taking down the Colossi. This remaster still has that epic scope that made some of the fights utterly thrilling to play, and few games have managed to capture the scale of these battles since, so it was really cool to revisit them with amazing visuals and much smoother controls. I honestly really enjoyed this remake, so much so that I could have actually played more. 16 is a good number, but it would have been cool to see a few more Colossi as a post-credits extra, especially seeing as I beat the game in around 4 hours, half the time it took on the PS3. I guess that could partly be due to knowing what to do, and also because I found the game a lot easier. I only died 3 times, once due to not having enough time to get out of the way of that sand Colossi, and twice to this bridge near the end. Yeah, that was a quick and simple part in the original version, but due to the camera changing, this part gave me much more difficulty than it ought to have done. But considering my main source of difficulty came from being swung about in the original version, it's not a massive flaw, and the scale of some of these battles definitely takes center stage here. In conclusion, this is a really damn good remaster. I still don't love the game, but I had a much better time with it this go around, thanks to many improvements made throughout. This remake should become a staple for how to remake or remaster a game from now, and I'd love to see Ico get similar treatment in the future. Shadow of the Colossus now scores an 87%, thanks to its epic scope, wonderful score, and now smooth-ish gameplay and beautiful vistas. This is the definitive way to play this very good game, especially if you've never encountered a Colossi before.